tell a little story. I started my show 7.5 years ago, and I always wanted Sid Bream on because I was a huge Pirate fan when he was here. When he left, I couldn't believe he was their #1 pick to get him signed, and they didn't, and I've heard that story. And then he went to the Braves, and he can't run anymore, and he's the guy running home. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Bonds throws the ball up to the first base side. Spanky dives back. I could have sworn he was out. They showed the replay 93 times, and 92 of them he scored. But that was my mind. So I always wanted Sid on my show. I must have had 10 people tell me, I know Sid Bream. So I go, okay, have him on my show. 5 years went by, no Sid Bream. I do a show, I help promote this Jessica Lee Jazz and Blues. She did a nice Christmas show here, and there's this young man there, and he comes up to me and he goes, I hear you do a sports show. I'm friends with Sid Bream. I said, get away from me. I said, you know how many guys have told me that? He goes, no. I go, 10. He goes, look, I have his phone number. I'm friends with him. I said, that's my number right now. I phone tagged him. He apologized not getting back to me. We hooked up, had him on my show. Duke's Rib House and Grill, had a great show. Guys were kidding him. My co-host, Smoking Jim Frazier, talked about the curse of Sid Bream. He's not even a baseball fan. He thinks Babe Ruth looks over the Pirates. Babe Ruth hit his last home run over the Pirates in Forbes Field. But he became friends, took some pictures, and I'm glad he could make it tonight. How are you tonight?
Oh, I'm doing great, and thank you so much for showing up. I mean, I appreciate you all being here with us, and you know, I'm looking forward to hopefully some great questions. And
well, I'm going to start the questions off.
Okay, very good.
When were you born?
August 3rd of 1960. I'm 58 years old, and I'll be 59 August 3rd.
Nice. And I know you're a Pennsylvanian guy, but I forget the city. Tell me the city.
I'm from down east. I'm a little bit east of here, about 3 hours and 15 minutes from here, in a little town called Mount Holly Springs, Pennsylvania, just outside of Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
I know Carlisle.
Mm-hmm. And grew up. My mom and dad had 6 kids. I was the third one in the lot. That we were 3 boys and 3 girls. And
tell me some stories about that.
Well, I mean, I could probably tell you quite a few stories about my, beating up my brothers and my sisters. And
well, you have nice size, so I assumed as much.
I actually wasn't too big. I was actually the smallest kid on my basketball team in 7th grade, and I was the tallest kid in my 8th grade season. So, wow, I mean, I grew that much, and so.
You had that spurt.
Yep, I did.
No, that's good. When did you start playing sports?
Ever since I can remember, Al. I mean,
was your family a sports family?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times people ask me, who was your favorite?
Yeah.
Favorite growing up as far as professional, and I said, in all truthfulness, I said my dad was my hero. I mean, and the reason that
I have to second that emotion. My dad was a basketball referee, took me to games everywhere, coached me in baseball. I didn't play basketball because who wants their dad critiquing you whether you fouled or walked, you know? So I didn't play basketball that much past 8th grade. But before that I did, and that was my hero.
Yeah.
So I agree with you.
Yeah, my dad, I mean, in high school, my dad, his last year playing high school, I think it was 46 innings or 48 innings, and he struck out 98 guys.
Wow.
Had a chance to play with the St. Louis Browns. But my grandfather, he had knee problems as well, but my grandfather was one of those that you're not playing on the Sabbath day.
Yeah.
And, caused my dad from being able to do something like that. And so it was too bad for my dad, but at the same time it was fun because he lived his life through me a little bit. And so that was kind of fun.
That's always nice. He got to play, and then he got to live through you there vicariously.
Absolutely.
Hopefully it wasn't like one of those parents we have today where they're yelling at a boy, at a girl, and you're throwing it to the wrong base.
No, and in all truth, my dad never had a chance. 6 kids in the family back then. He worked 3 jobs in order to put enough food on the table, and I saw him a little bit as far as my playing days were concerned, but not a whole lot. So he worked hard in order to
I know what
make
it's
me look like this.
I come from a sports family too. My uncle was on the first pro basketball team, the Pittsburgh Ironmen. And matter of fact, if you remember Myron Cope at all, he had a radio
do.
show. Myron Cope used to talk about this guy named Shmuley who used to pass a ball like Bob Cousy. That was my uncle.
Oh, was that?
So I would see Myron Cope out, and I'd go, "Hey, thanks for mentioning my uncle." And he goes, "Who are you? Are you the ref's son, or are you the basketball player's son?" I go, "The ref's son." He goes, "Tell him I said hello."
Myron Cope, I mean, I have a story. When I first came
Share
to
it.
Pittsburgh, we went over and we were supposed to be doing a roast for, I think, the traveling secretary for Pitt. And so we're at this hall, and I'm not sure where it was. I can't remember at this point in time, but Myron Cope gets up and just starts blasting me. I mean, like I'm the one that's supposed to get roasted, and I'm sitting there thinking, Myron, what's going on here, pal? I mean, you know.
He liked you. That's
yeah,
what it
he
was.
liked me all right.
He was one of a kind. And he did like his hot toddies, so he may have had a couple to get started.
Well, possibly.
He could do that. I understand that. Anybody that's lived and played sports in Pittsburgh knew Myron, for sure. What a man there.
He was one of those distinctive voices for sure, and you sat there and you thought to yourself, how in the heck did he get on radio?
And he was a great
Or
writer.
television as well.
Yeah. I have a face for TV, and I'm modest about it, and a voice for radios, so I'm blessed. But I don't know what he had, because he could write for Sports Illustrated and yoy and double yoy. How does that even mean anything? Come on. But I had to share that because I'm a sports guy. I didn't play for the Steelers and win six Super Bowls, but I enjoyed watching the games. Not so much this year, but we go to Sid Bream. What happened in high school? What'd you do in high school?
Played basketball and baseball for the most part. I started off in 7th grade playing football, but I had meningitis between 7th and 8th grade, and my doctor said you can't play 8th grade football because he didn't want my brain getting rattled.
Sure.
So I sat out 8th grade, sat out 9th grade, 10th grade. I didn't play football, but 2 weeks into the season, they said their quarterback was so bad
somebody.
that they said, come on out and play quarterback for us. And so I did that and played 10th grade, and then in between 10th grade and 11th grade, a guy was stretching for a double play ball during the summer, and a guy came inside the base and took out my knee. And so that took me from playing 11th grade, and so I didn't play 12th grade, but basketball and baseball.
What a roller coaster you
Yeah.
had.
But, you know, I was,
How frustrating was that for you?
you know, as big as I was, I mean, you know, in all truthfulness, I didn't like getting hit.
Yeah.
I mean, I was one of those that, I mean, those linemen, defensive linemen would be on the other side of the ball, and they'd be sitting there growling at me, and
Right.
I'd be peeing in my pants.
You're an honest man. That's why I told him. How can they hate Sid Bream because of one slide with a
Well, they
story
do.
like that?
They do. A lot of them here do.
I know. I just had a couple before you came here. I had Matt tell me that.
Oh, I know. I mean, I get it all the time, but I like to give it right back. I get a carotid artery on a lot of people.
Oh, really? I like your style. I was always taught it's better to give than to receive.
There you go.
And I practice that.
That's a good principle.
You know. Oh, well, how'd you get to college then? What happened?
Well,
with
I mean,
college?
in all reality, I mean, when I went into my 12th grade year, I mean, I really and truly loved playing a game of baseball and really didn't have an understanding that I was being watched to play professional ball.
Okay.
Until my 12th
You were
grade.
just a little naive then.
I just loved playing a game of baseball, but my 12th grade year, you know, scouts started to come around and started to say that you had a chance to be drafted. And so I was really thinking about that. And thankfully, I had a guidance counselor that said, what happens if you don't get signed?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I don't know. He said, well, take your SATs. So I went and took my SATs, and at the end of my senior year, even though I had a great senior year, I didn't get drafted. And so I had no offers at that point in time other than basketball. I had so many more offers for basketball than I did baseball. Truthfully, I had 2 offers at that point. I had Liberty University or Liberty Baptist College in Lynchburg, Virginia, and I had Temple University. That they both gave me full scholarships. Temple University was just tuition and books and no room and board, and Liberty was everything. And coming from the family that I did, I didn't have the means, and so, and I'll just share, 13 years old, I went down with a youth group down to Liberty or Lynchburg, Virginia, and I saw what Liberty Baptist College was, and I swore at that point in time I'll never ever go to that school.
Really?
And but
Things changed.
things changed. I mean, and now if you go down there, my daughter's graduating from there this year.
Wow.
My wife and I were the first ones to go to Liberty, and since then we've had 19 Breams go through that school, and it's changed quite a bit from the time that we were there to the time it is now.
All for the better, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely.
No, that's a great story.
Yeah. So I went down there, played 3 years of college baseball, hit 435, averaged 435 every year that
That's
I played.
not too shabby.
That's wasn't too bad at all.
And then I saw, I'm a stat guy, so I looked at some of your stats. Then I saw you went to the minors. The Dodgers picked you in the second round, right?
Yep.
And then I saw you hit something, 83 home runs in 2 years of minor league ball. 83 home runs. That's pretty good.
I wish I could have kept that going in the major leagues.
I'm not even asking about it. Because I saw your highest year was 16 with
Yep.
the Buccos in 86.
But I mean, just understand this. I was a platoon player too. Other than 1986, I was a platoon player. So I generally averaged about 350 to 380 at bats, where most people were getting 550 to 600 at bats a year.
That makes a difference.
That makes a huge difference. So I'm not saying that I would have been a 25 home run guy, but I could have easily been maybe a 20 to 21
I think
home
20
run
to
guy.
23 maybe you might have got there.
Who knows?
Might have been right up in there knocking at the door. Because you did have some power to, like in the gaps in center and right field, left field. I know you hit some doubles there that were well hit.
In today's world, as far as the hitter that I best exemplify, would probably be Josh Bell. Josh Bell just does not have that launch swing right now. He's more of a line drive swing. And, Dale Crandall, who was my coach in Albuquerque when I was with the Dodgers,
Yeah.
I was hitting a lot of line drives there, and he just had me lean back just a little bit on my backside to create more of a launch, and it
now they're all about the launch angles and everything. Baseball has changed for the negative in my book with what they do. They have the cookie cutter stances now. Everybody got to stand a certain way.
But it is efficient. I mean, and just like a golfer. I mean, you see golfers. I mean, and all of them. You don't see too many Jim Furyk's where he's out and in and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going for efficiency, and the more efficient you are, the better chance that you have to see the ball, put the bat on the ball, and so all these kids getting their lessons and everything, they get to that place.
I know, but then you see some of these guys that are great pitchers, and they start fooling with their arms. Wait a second. So what if it was 3/4 of a motion instead of straight overhand? Let him go.
Well,
if he has 4 or 5 years, maybe that's all the pitches that he has in him.
I do believe that. I mean, a lot of pitchers today. I mean, if you start to change their motion, their body is so inclined to be throwing a certain way that it puts a lot more pressure on their elbow and on their shoulder.
I'm known as saying on my show, because I am sarcastic, that get a left-handed son as a pitcher and get a Tommy John surgery before he graduates college. And that's what I'm known for saying.
Well,
and you got to have the left-hander.
And the struggle is a lot of parents are doing that. I mean, a lot of parents are allowing their child to get Tommy John surgery even before they're hurt, and I mean that's sad.
But that's why I'm saying it's ridiculous that it went to that level. It should be after you're injured, not to enhance what you're supposed to do for the money.
Agreed.
And I've seen a lot of great pitchers and talent over the years. Kids in Green Tree that I grew up with had major league contracts and stuff, blew their arms out because they thought they could throw through a brick wall all the time.
Well, see, my son had surgery. I mean, he had signed with the Diamondbacks and got released, and then but he had a strong arm. I mean, he topped out at 94 in the high school and started to work in order to try to become a pitcher.
Sure.
But he went to a showcase after he worked out for a little bit and got to the place where he felt something in his elbow with about 5 throws to go, and so that was on a Tuesday. A Thursday, he went to see Dr. DeMeo, who was the Pirates' orthopedist.
Sure.
Got an MRI on Friday.
He's a great doctor.
And on
put him under the knife.
Tuesday, he had Tommy John surgery, and they swore that everything was great, but you know, this is a thing that you just never know. You do the Tommy John surgery. My son, all through his rehab, was doing great until he got to the place where he had to start letting it go, and then he had sharp pains.
Yeah.
And he just
Never came back.
never came back. So
No, it's sad. There's so many ups and downs in sports. That's why, how many years did you have in the major leagues?
12 parts of 12 seasons and 10 full seasons. So
That's not too bad.
no, I will. A lot of individuals wish they could have that. I mean, the median time frame up in the big leagues is like 2.5 years.
Is that all it is?
Yeah. So you know, and I've always said, you look at people today, these kids today, they put everything that they have into it, you know, and then at the same time they finally get to the big leagues.
Sure.
And it's short time, and then you know
That
they're
window closes.
24, 25 years old. I mean, if they come out of college and they're done, and now they got to start a whole new career again. And so that's why I try to tell kids, make sure you get your education. Because, I mean,
Sure.
you know, one out of a million people if there was a million people in here, one out of those a million people would become a Major League Baseball player.
Right.
And so go
That's
after
why-
your dreams. But
That's why it's so funny when you go to ball fields and parents are like, you know, yelling for Johnny or Sally
Yeah.
to do this or do that. Wait a second. They're 11 years old here.
I got a story for you
gotta
there.
have some fun.
I mean,
Go ahead.
I had several years ago, I had a friend of mine down in Georgia that called me up, and he said, and I thought he was close to my age, so I thought, well, this boy has to be, you know, pretty old.
Yeah, yeah.
And he sat there and started telling me he's a shortstop, and he's throwing the ball so hard across the infield, the first baseman can't hit it. He's hitting home runs right and left, and I'm really getting excited. I'm thinking, man, I gotta get, you know, who is he, and
Yeah.
you know, get somebody to look at him and so on and so forth. And so after a little bit of time of his dad talking about him, I said, well, tell me something. How old is your son? Thinking he's going to say 14, 15 years old.
Yeah.
He said 8 years old. And I said, oh, come on. So I said, when he's 14 or 15, then come tell me. And so when he got to be 14 or 15 years old, I mean, he had plateaued, and
Sure.
he wasn't the player that he used to be.
Yeah, just like these parents that put their kids in football at 5, 6 years old.
Yep.
By the time they're in high school, they're done.
Yep.
You know, there's some exceptions.
Yep.
Don't
I
get
mean,
me wrong.
and again, what you always see, and I think everybody out here will realize, I mean, you know, there's a plateauing. I mean, some kids go up so far, then they plateau, and then
Sure.
the other ones they're going to start going up again, and then they're going to plateau, and it's those ones that just keep on moving up.
Plus, like you're saying, the size. Look at how you were smaller, and then
Yep.
you grew up in 1 year. You know, you got
Yeah, but look at the Rafael Belliard. I mean, he was about 5'8", 5'6", and I mean,
Yeah.
he could take, you know, catch everything.
Yeah, no,
So-
it's amazing.
But-
Chico Lind and
Chico
guys like
Lean,
that.
yep, absolutely.
No doubt. Who were you friends with on the Pirates?
When
When you were there.
I first got here in 1986 or so, I'm trying to think.
I got to test your brain on this one.
Believe me, I had the meningitis, so I mean, I really truly believe some of my brain cells are dead. But I do, you know, we were with Dave Drabeck a lot. I mean, actually,
Doug
we
Drabeck?
were
Yeah.
godparents to his kids.
Oh, that's nice.
So I mean, my wife and their kids and what's her name?
Your
Christy.
Your kids were around the same age?
Yeah,
then?
they were the same age, and I mean, and they were together all the time, and so, you know, Doug, we did a lot of things with Doug, and then later on, Wally Backman came in, and I was friends with Wally Backman a lot. I hung
nice.
out with him a little bit, which, you know, a Mutt and Jeff ordeal. I mean, I was 6'4", he was about 5'2", and
That's a good combo,
yeah. So, but yeah,
especially when you went out.
but you know, and then I went down to Atlanta and Jeff Treadway, I mean, which is a small guy as well, and
Yeah.
And then I went to Houston and Andy Stankiewicz, and I don't know if you remember Andy Stankiewicz.
I remember the
but
name, yeah.
I think he was about 5 foot tall, and I mean, but we used
You'd
to
have fit
have.
in with my dad's family. They were all short. I got 3 sisters that are 5 foot tall.
Yeah.
You'll have to meet them. They'll probably be your friends. So, like, tell me the story with your last years with the Buccos. You know, you had told me off air that they were supposed to try to sign
Yeah.
you, and we all know how free agency is. So,
And see, that's you know, a lot of people in Pittsburgh don't understand what took place during that
no,
time
that's why I
frame.
wanted out here
Yeah,
tonight.
I mean,
'cause
but
we
in
got the
19
interview with Sid Bream.
Yeah, the 1990 season, we had finally got to the place where we got to the playoffs, and we went against the Cincinnati Reds, and we lost to the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah.
And the very next day after we lost, the Pittsburgh Pirate management came out and said that Sid Bream's our first priority to sign for the 1991 season. So my wife and I were ecstatic. I mean, thinking, man, we're going to be in Pittsburgh. We're probably going to get a multi-year deal. And so we were really thankful and looking forward to it. And
Sure.
so started a negotiation process, I mean, throughout the fall.
You had an agent, of course.
I did. I mean, and in all actuality, my agent, and if you remember Payne Stewart, when he went down in his plane, the gentleman that was on the plane with him was Robert Fraley, and that was my agent back then.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And, you know, so anyway, we were trying to negotiate with the Pirates, and at that point in time, really, they never even got close to market price on me, let alone give me anything more
Really?
for being somebody that I was their priority. And so free agency finally came. The Atlanta Braves called and said that they have a great offer for me, but I need to make a decision tonight, because if I'm not going to sign with them, they're going to go someplace else.
You're kidding. They put that time element on you.
They did, and my wife and I said, hey, you know, we got to go with the Atlanta Braves. I mean, Pirates haven't done anything. So we did that. We said yes, but I can tell you that my wife will tell you that all night long we cried our eyes out thinking
Sure.
we were leaving Pittsburgh. I mean,
How old were you then?
that would have been at 20, what were we?
She can help out. Michelle, give us an answer.
It would have been 30 years old, I think, 29 or 30 years old.
Yeah.
Um,
So you still thought you had a couple good years left to go anyhow, right?
And so at that point in time, I called, the next morning I got up and I called Jim Leland real quick. And I said, Skip, I said, you know, am I bound to this contract? And he said, Sid, you haven't put your name to it yet, so you're not bound to it. So at that point in time, I called my attorney, Robert.
Sure.
And just for an hour and a half, he talked to me and tried to talk me out of doing what I wanted to do and stay in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And but after that hour and a half, he said, okay, let's go. And so he called Mike Moy, who was at the winter meetings.
Sure.
And in the process, he called me back and he said, well, let me ask you a question. This is a condensed version. He said, what if they sign you and then they trade you down to Pittsburgh? You're going to look like an idiot. I mean, they trade you down to Atlanta, you're going to look like an idiot.
Yeah.
You could have had this much money. And I said, great point. I said, let's go and ask him for a no trade clause. So Mike Moy went to the Pirates and asked for a no trade clause, and they said no to a no trade clause. And at that point in time, I said, if I'm your first priority, I'd hate to see what your last one is.
Great comment.
And so, you know, we went down to Atlanta, and for the next 2 years, we knocked them out of it. And obviously, everybody knows about the '92 slide, that they don't like me here.
Hold it. Let's talk about that slide. You segued into that perfectly. I've been holding off on that. Yes, not quite. I caught him. I caught him right here. That whole setup there. Now you're back playing the Pirates here, which that had to be emotional to begin with.
Well, I mean, and one of, you know, as I go out and speak, I mean, a lot of times, I mean, one of the highlights of my career was really my first time coming back to Pittsburgh from Atlanta, or my first time back, and we were actually, I didn't start the game because John Smiley started the game for us.
Yeah.
And I was a platoon player, as I said, and so
Sure.
I didn't start, but we got killed that game. It was 9-1.
Wow.
And in the last inning, Jim Leland put in Stan Belinda to pitch, and so Bobby Cox allowed me to pinch hit.
Yeah.
And so I went on the on-deck circle, and as I went up, they announced my name to get up into the batter's box. I mean, the people of Pittsburgh gave me a 5-minute standing ovation, which literally, I can tell you, I mean, it made my eyes water, it made my knees knock. I mean, and there was no way what I could hit the ball.
People did appreciate you here no matter what happened after the slide.
I don't understand that, Al, because when I was here, they booed me all the time.
There's a love-hate relationship here. Let me think about that a second.
So anyway, I mean, after all that took place, I mean, you know, and literally my eyes were watering. I was crying.
Did you even swing a bat?
I mean, and you know, if you playing baseball, you have to have all your faculties in order to hit a 94 an hour fastball.
Sure.
So I'm standing in the batter's box, and Stan Belinda throws me a fastball, and I somehow swing the bat, hit the ball, and it goes straight over the center field wall. in all my 90 home runs that I hit in baseball, I never hit a home run to center field wall except for that one.
You're kidding.
I mean, right center field to right field line, down to left field line, I'd hit home runs. I never hit a straightaway center field.
God works in mysterious ways.
He certainly did. I mean, he took my bat and swung that night. There's no doubt in my mind. So came around, stepped on home plate again, and the people gave me another 5-minute standing ovation. And
In Pittsburgh, yeah.
absolutely.
How could that even be, right?
I agree with you. I mean, but I tell you what, it meant it meant a great deal to my family,
Sure.
my wife and I. And I hit my first grand slam against the Pittsburgh Pirates.
No way.
Bob Patterson, and I tell people, I said, if you would have put they put the camera in the dugout, and it looked like I just lost my mom. I mean,
You were sobbing.
at that point in time in '91, it hurt because I mean those guys were still my teammates. I mean,
You just barely left them, yeah.
if it wasn't against them by any means, I mean it was
it was
Pittsburgh management that screwed me over for sure.
Well, the management after that got rid of the team and disbanded them, and
Yep.
we had 20 bad years after that, and now they call it the curse of Sid Bream.
There you go.
I don't even know. I told people, how do you even come up with that? That's an excuse. It wasn't his fault. He's a victim of circumstances.
There you go.
I'm telling you.
That's what I've been trying to tell people. They won't listen.
All right, now we're getting to the 7th game. What the heck happened here? What's your memories of that?
I mean, I think a lot of them in here could tell us what their memory of that was.
I already did all week. For 2 weeks, I've been hearing it. I'm sick of it. I want to hear it from the man, Sid Bream.
This is real funny because when the new regime came in to like Neil Huntington and Frank Coonley and them came in, and
Sure.
I started to coach with the Pirates for 1 year, and so we were down in spring training, and they brought all the new guys in to introduce them to the old coaching staff and stuff, and not Neil Huntington, but can't think of it. Man, don't get old.
No.
But he gets up in front of everybody. He starts to announce me. He said, "I can tell you that whenever we announced that Sid Bream was coming here to be a coach, I mean, half the people called up and said, 'Great move.' The other people, the other half said, 'What in the heck are you doing?' I mean, you can't be hiring him." So anyway, but that night, in 1992, October 14th of 1992, I mean, score was 2-0. Doug Drabek had pitched a masterful ball game going into the 9th inning. 7th game of the National League Championship Series. Whoever wins that ball game goes to the World Series, and they had the champagne and everything over in the Pirates locker room.
They were ready.
They were. I mean, and I did one of these with Terry Pendleton down in the Atlanta area, and wasn't that long ago. And Terry sat up on stage with me, and he looked at me and he said, looked at the audience. He said, "I want to tell you something." He said, "I knew we were going to win that ball game even before the inning started."
Wow.
And I said, "I'm glad you did, because I certainly didn't." But but he started it all off. I mean, he got the double down the right field line.
Sure.
And then David Justice came up and hit a hard ground ball to Jose Chicolin. Jose had only made 6 errors all year long.
When does he make an error?
Seventh
we were
error that
screaming
night.
at the TV over that.
Yeah, and then it was my turn up at the plate, and again I told you that Doug's kids we were godparents to his kids, and I'd already hit a double off of Doug that night.
Yeah.
And so he's probably sitting there thinking to himself, "I cannot let the godparent of my kids win this ball game." And I had every intention to hit a home run. I just want you to know that, okay?
Yeah, I believe it.
But he
Especially over center field.
He walked me on 4 straight pitches, never gave me a chance to swing the bat, and so I went down to first base, and so now we had bases loaded with nobody out, and you can imagine what it would have been like here in Pittsburgh if that scenario had been switched. The place was just going wild. I mean, a tomahawk chop was going.
And then with your bad knees and your lack of speed,
Well,
what the heck is going on here?
I mean, and that's
I'm questioning the manager.
I have a lot of fun with this because Skip Carey, who's up in the press box, the announcer or the radio announcer for the Braves, and as soon as I hit first base, Skip Carey's saying, "Okay, Bobby, get somebody to run for Sid Bream. If you can't find somebody in the dugout, get somebody up in the stands.
Sure.
Just get somebody to run for Sid Bream." But some reason, Bobby left me in at that point in time, and so at that point, Ronnie Gant comes up and hits a long fly ball to left field. It takes Barry Bonds back to the warning track, almost a grand slam.
Yeah.
But it's a sacrifice fly. We get one
There's
run,
one
but
run
now
there.
we're first and second with one out, and so you got to get a hit. So Jim Leland had enough at that point in time, went out and got Doug Drabeck out and brought in Stan Belinda, and
here we go.
Yep, here we go. And so Damon Berryhill, our catcher, comes up, controversial second strike. If you talk to Mike LaValliere, it's not just a third strike call, but a second strike call.
Get on.
That he would say that, shoot, Randy Marsh missed those calls.
Sure.
And so he walked, and so we had bases loaded again. And Brian Hunter pinched hit and hit a broken bat little fly ball behind second base. And then with me out at second base, Francisco Cabrera come up, and a lot of people said, who in the heck is Francisco Cabrera? But, as I've shared with a lot of people, Frankie, if you had your back turned to the batting cage when you were taking batting practice and you had no idea who was in that batting cage, you heard that distinctive schwack, schwack that come off of his bat.
Just solid.
He had more power than anybody else on the team. But Frankie just didn't have a place to play. He was one of those that just didn't have a place to play.
There wasn't a spot for him.
And so Frankie come up, and if you all remember, if you have any clue about remembering it, it was a high outside fastball that probably was a ball.
Sure.
And he pulled a bullet between third base and shortstop to the right of Jay Bell. And for me, it was one of those that there was two outs. I didn't have to worry about where the ball was hit. I could take off at the crack of the bat. If you ever watch the replay, you'll see that I'm almost a third of the way. On my secondary, I'm almost a third of the way from second base to third base.
A friend of mine just showed me that video again before we came up. Thanks, Brad.
So and again, and then the one thing that I always have a lot of fun doing is everybody said, "Man, you made such a great hook slide." I said, "What are you talking about? There was no hook slide. That was straight in there." I was trying to get to the base as soon as I could, but something that in all reality has changed my life. Because most players that play the game of baseball, they get out and after a couple years, they become obsolete. They're, only their family and friends know that they play Major League Baseball.
You're still talking about that slide.
Yeah, up until just a couple years ago, that play was still considered the fourth most exciting play in Major League Baseball history.
That is amazing.
And so, it's kept it around, and I live here in Pittsburgh, and so I hear from people all the time, but
I'm sure.
But it's been a great thing. It's been a great thing for my family and I, and it's given me an opportunity to get up here with you, Al, and do things such as this.
I'm glad we have. I don't even know what time it is. We're supposed to do 45 minutes in this first session. I think we still got some time left on this session.
Okay.
Yeah, we covered up to the slide. I had to get. What did you feel after that? You had guys jumping on you and
a lot of people said, "Did you get hurt underneath that pile?" And I said,
"You didn't feel a thing."
Adrenaline was going so much. I could have threw them off at any time, I believe. But
I just liked how determined you were coming around short, third base, coming home. The look on your face, there was no stopping you. I've read reports
what kind of a look am I supposed to have coming around third?
I don't know. I don't know, but there was no smile. It was just true focus.
No, I was grimacing, believe me.
You were focused and
But the thing about it is, going back to that play, Bobby Cox to this day, and I hope you guys will be praying for Bobby. I don't know if you guys have heard, but Bobby just went through a stroke. And so I hope you guys will be praying for him that he'll make a full recovery. But Bobby Cox to this day will tell you that he had nobody to put at first base, but that's not true. He had Brian Hunter, who always platooned with me.
Yeah.
He could have played first base, and Francisco Cabrera had played first base. So the big thing was that night is who was going to put in at second base for Mark Lemke was going to be the question. So he could have had a runner out there, literally, that could have been in the dugout by the time I got to home base. And so, I knew that there had to have been something else, somebody that was inspiring.
His mind went blank. Again, God smiled on you.
I tell people that Damon Berryhill, a catcher, and I had a big high-stakes race down in Atlanta. And I blew him away. So Bobby saw that first of all.
Okay.
But the one thing that he didn't see me doing is, I did race Deion Sanders too in a race, and he beat me.
Just barely, I'm sure.
Barely. But I mean, I was going backwards when he was going forwards, and so that's the truth.
No, I appreciate stories like that because there's plenty of them out there. And I mean, look at the power you had the first couple years in the minors and coming up and had 90 home runs, one over center field.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
It was a good life. I mean, I love playing the game of baseball. I mean, some things stupid stuff that I did in the game that I wish I wouldn't have done, but
Yeah.
I love playing the game of
Things
baseball.
happen. Did you coach at all in baseball?
Well, like I said, I mean,
For
that
the
first
Pirates
year
and-
I did rookie ball for the Pirates, and but other than that,
Not really.
I love doing it. The sad part, not the sad part, but the thing that it got me right back into the swing of things that I was away from my family again, and I just
Sure.
didn't need that.
Well, you
at
have
that
how
point
many
in time.
kids? 4 kids?
4 children, and
Sure.
now we have a grandson, and going to be having another one here at the end of
Well,
September.
the family's expanding.
It is at that, and I'm loving every bit of it.
Well, you're a family man, as you've said, and you got local roots here in Pittsburgh. We're proud to have you here. At least I am. I don't care what they say about you. I'm glad you could be on our first show for a series of interviews here.
Thanks, Al.
You know, I'm having fun finding out more about you, and I hope people enjoyed some of these stories that you shared with them.
Well, I appreciate that as well. It's great to, and let me just share. I mean, I don't know if we got to get going for
No,
the first.
I think we got a couple more minutes.
But,
you got one more story?
You know, one of the neat things that took place. We have a place up in Cranberry. I live up in Zillionople, and one of the
My
great.
daughter lives up there with a boyfriend up there
Okay.
now. Yeah.
But in Cranberry Township, there's a restaurant up there called Domenico's, and
I've heard of it.
2 or 3 years ago, the Pirates had a chance to play the Braves in the playoffs.
Okay.
And so the Braves called me up and said, would you come down and throw out the first pitch?
Wow.
And I told them no, I wasn't going to do that because I didn't want people in Pittsburgh to think that I had an allegiance for the Braves. And
Smart move.
but the stupid thing that I did is somebody, a writer talked to me a little bit about it, and I blabbed it and it embarrassed the Braves, but it got out into the public, and so at that point in time, a lot of people heard about it, but the Minicos, they finally put out on their sign, they said, welcome back. That was the first time that they welcomed me back. They wrote on their sign, welcome back, Sid. I mean, so they finally felt as though I had my allegiance with Pittsburgh
You're
again.
a true Pittsburgher. Well, you did well because you live here. You
Yep.
need that.
I've been here even when I played in Atlanta, we came back in the off season.
Wow,
So
that's great. We'll share some of those stories on this next part. We're going to take a 15-minute break. We'll mingle with you, maybe see what's going on around here in the audience, and we'll be right back. You want to stand up and say it?
I was just asking, I wanted to see.
Well, we want to do Q&A later. We can do it early.
Okay. I want to see, I guess, psychologically, how you dealt with the celebrity when you first became a ball player, because obviously it put you on a much grander stage. And then obviously it probably magnified after the slide. I just wanted to see, I guess, what you personally felt. I know what you hear, what everybody else felt, I guess, from both sides, just what you experienced and what you were feeling internally.
well, I mean, obviously there's tremendous highs, and there's also tremendous lows in the game. I mean, one of the big things in sports, and I probably did it way too much, is listening to talk radio. I listened today to 93.7, and I literally want to reach through and grab them by the neck and say, you guys never played. Keep your mouth shut. So you don't know what's going on. But there's highs, there's lows, there's temptations, there's trials, and there's it's just one of those difficult things. I mean, you have to be able to take care of all those, and I wish that I could say that. I mean, I was really, really strong with each one of those, but I can't. I'm not going to sit here and say that. But the game of baseball was such a great game. I mean, as I said, up until 12th grade of high school, there was not even a thought of playing professional ball. It was just, I just absolutely loved the game of baseball, and I share with individuals, I think the greatest, as far as baseball is concerned, it shouldn't be about what you're going to be making as far as a contract. It should be about the love of the game still, and you know, unfortunately, money gets involved with it, and that's what makes everything a little bit rougher. So.
No, thanks for your question there. We got that in.
Yep.
I wanted to delve into a little bit like your speaking engagements that you do and
Okay.
different things that you've done
Great.
after baseball. Might as well
Great.
cover that if we could start with that right now. What do you
Well,
think?
I mean, and Al, thank you for asking that. You know, because of that play, you know, it has given me a platform to get out and share, and I do a lot of faith-based talks.
Sure.
I've done corporate work, I've done leadership work, but it has given me an opportunity. It's kept me in people's minds, and so.
And where do you talk at? Do you go to different corporations, cities?
I go corporations, church, you know, again,
Churches.
mostly church stuff.
Okay.
But I've gone to corporations, and I've gone to banquets. I was just up in a banquet up in Youngstown, did a baseball banquet up there
nice.
just a lot of different venues, and you know, it's been, when I first started, again, it was one of those that I didn't want to be out speaking. I mean,
Right.
that wasn't what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But
You sort of fell into it.
I did. I mean, God put the platform there, but today, I mean, it's been a blessing to get in front of people and be able to share a faith that I have, and you know, try to help people out as far as their life is concerned.
Well, I appreciate your faith and how positive you are with things, because bad things happen to everybody. I always say, what do you do next?
Well, and that's a biblical principle for sure. I mean, a biblical principle is when you get knocked down, I mean, you're going to get back up, and,
Sure.
and that's what you have to do. But you know, but at the same time, Al, it's all about, you know, understanding and recognizing who the one that you can be looking to in order to gain the strength to
You
be
need
able to
that
get
guidance.
back up.
You need that
Exactly.
guidance. You
Absolutely.
need something to follow.
Absolutely.
You need somebody to lead you like you and
Well.
help people from that.
No, you need somebody like my wife over there. She's the good one.
All right, we're getting her up here. She's
She
sitting
should
in
be. She should be up here.
She's
Truthfully.
sitting in the background. Enough of that. No, but that's great. And you seem like you're a pretty busy guy doing these speeches.
Well, this spring has been, winter, spring.
Yeah, we're spring.
Has been pretty hectic. You know, and something that I've been doing as well now, Al, is and again, something that I really, when it was given to me,
Sure.
it was something that I just said, nope, I'll never do that. I'm not doing it. But I told him, I said I'd pray about it. I'm a chaplain for a trucking company here. Out
Really?
in Hopewell Township. I mean, PGT Trucking.
You're their
flatbed
chaplain.
company. I'm the chaplain there, and been doing it a little over 3 years now. And
What do you have to do then?
Well, my job basically is to be there for anybody that needs help. I mean, there's over 800 drivers in the corporation.
Wow.
And so every Wednesday I go down to Blairsville and I talk to the new truckers, and I just introduce myself and I share with them why I'm there.
Sure.
And you know, basically my first thought to them is, hey, most of you in here you probably think a chaplain. What the heck do you need a chaplain for?
Yeah.
But I mean, as I say to them, I said, when your 18-year-old daughter dies in an automobile accident,
Sure.
you might need some help. Or when you're 400 miles away from your home and you have to call the doctor up and tell the doctor not to resuscitate your son,
Sure.
you might need to help. Or when you're coming down from vacation at 9 o'clock at night and somebody hits a deer and it goes through the passenger window and kills your wife instantly,
Right.
I said you might need help. And those are all things that have taken place along with sickness, along with death.
And it happens.
This world is, I mean, there's a lot of struggles.
Right. God doesn't tell us that plan.
No.
Different things are given to us, good and bad.
That's
So
exactly
what we
right,
do
Al.
with it.
So
I know I try to stay positive. I appreciate your positivity. And,
thanks, Al.
You know, it's really good. What's on your agenda next?
I actually leave tomorrow morning to go down to Atlanta. I mean, I'm
I
going
know. I
down to
heard
do.
you say it. I want to get it out.
I'm
He's
going
a
down
traveling man.
Yep, I'm going down to do some appearances tomorrow, and then next weekend I'll be in Cumberland, Maryland, doing a wild game dinner.
get
I love
out.
to do outdoor. I'm an outdoorsman.
Are you? You're a
And,
hunter?
love to. I'm a bow hunter, and so I go to churches and talk about my outdoor experiences. But at the same time,
Tell us an outdoor experience. We're
Well,
expanding the brand here right now.
I've had a chance to go all over the place. I've been to Africa twice.
Hold it. What kind of bow do you use?
I'm a Hoyt. I use Hoyt.
Because I have a couple friends that are bow
Yeah.
hunters and tell me, a friend of mine sent me a video. He shot a deer. He was 50 feet away. I don't know his bow. He had some big bow. Knocked it down and went right down.
Well, that's depending upon where you hit it on the deer, and that's very, very unlikely to do. But I mean,
He just hit it
and I don't
perfectly.
want to get in here and start talking about that, because I mean that's some of the bad stuff that happens.
Right.
And
No, but he sent me a video like that because I'm not a hunter. I
Yeah.
appreciate guys that hunt because deer are a nuisance. There's no natural
Well,
killers of them.
but they're also beautiful, and you
Four
know,
deer were eaten in my yard yesterday.
so
As long as they're eating the weeds.
I mean, you know, we could have a debate, and there's probably some individuals here that they don't like the fact that what I do, but at the same time, it's something that I believe that God has given me an
You're
opportunity
just a
to do.
controversial guy. What can I,
I
say?
am. I love to stir up controversy.
Anything you say, it's controversial.
There you
Come
go.
on.
There you go.
I'm willing to go right with you, no problem. But he'll take them down, no doubt. Do you like eating deer then?
I do. I absolutely do.
Do you have special meals that you make or anything with it, or?
I like making little tenderloins out of them, about that thin.
Yeah.
And just and putting them in my mouth, and
Simple as that.
simple as that.
See, you're a simple guy, but
I am a simple
controversial.
guy.
I like that. When's the next?
We'll get it all tonight.
When's the next hunting trip?
I will not be doing anything until hunting season here, but I have some couple trips, starting in the plan to go, maybe my wife and I going to New Zealand.
Oh, really?
And then also I have some points built up in Utah and out in Wyoming that
Oh, get out! Really?
get out and do some stuff out there.
Sounds exciting.
It's fun, a lot of fun, but I do know I got to get in a lot better shape than what I'm in right now.
Too many tenderloins.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's the other stuff. Tenderloins would be good for me.
It might be the potatoes you're having with that, or
And
something.
that's the thing.
Maybe some bread.
I tell my wife to stop cooking those, and she keeps cooking them for me.
Some women are just stubborn like that. I don't get it. No doubt, those things happen. So you're heading to Atlanta next, and then Cumberland, and what's going on in Pittsburgh besides? What else do you do around Pittsburgh area except watch the grandchild and
Well,
wait for the second one
as I
to
said,
come
I
on?
do my work and going as a chaplain, and we'll do some appearances for the Pirates this year.
Okay.
And I've already done one for them, but
Yeah.
I went down the first day of opening day and was down there with them a little bit, and but I'll do some appearances with them, do their golf tournaments and so on and so forth. And
Well, since you were down there, what's it like around the team?
I didn't have a chance to get right in with the team.
Okay, well,
But,
that's why I'm asking.
But I will say that as far as I really have a good feeling as far as this team. Little sketchy as far as the infield, but once Polanco comes back, our outfield, our pitching staff. I really feel really good about the pitching staff.
Right. There's a lot of ifs, but you do have the talent there, which is
Yeah,
nice to see.
the biggest thing is pitching,
Yeah.
and right now they have the pitching. I really and truly believe that starting staff is probably one of the better ones in the game.
Right.
And
Well,
so
far they're only averaging 1.5 runs a game.
Yeah.
For starters, that's not bad.
in all truthfulness, we could be 5-0 right now.
Yes.
Our bullpen and some of our defense left us down a little bit, but we could be 5-0. And I just I have a good feeling right now. If we keep away from injuries, and we might do something this year.
Yeah, the injuries are key, so you got to watch that. But they have a nice group of young players.
They do.
And even though we lost Kutch and Cole, the players won 82 games.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody thought they'd do that.
Well,
They
again,
didn't quit. They kept playing.
we just need to keep moving forward. I mean, we need, if we do get into the hunt and we have a hole someplace, we need for the Pirate management to make a good trade or do something in order to fill that hole to give us a chance to keep moving forward.
Well, put it like this, just being the lowest price team or whatever else doesn't hold water. When you're winning some games, sometimes that one player you get that could win 5 more games when you're winning 85, that helps.
Absolutely.
We've all seen sports. I've watched it before. I've talked to scouts, and like when your team's winning 60 games, that big player is not going to help. You're going to sign somebody for $400 million. What difference will they make? But if you won 85, 89 games, that player would make a difference.
Yeah. I mean, I just think back 2 years ago whenever they traded Verlander to Houston.
Yeah.
I mean, and
what if we got him?
Altuve at second base, I mean, he said he had an interview and he said, I cannot tell you how much that meant to the team that the management wanted to win when they did that. And so it gives that team the feeling, hey, they really want to win. And that's what needs to be generated a little bit here, and I think that they're going to do that.
Sure, and it helps your mind when you're a player that, okay, now instead of being tired, guess what, I'm going to try a little extra this time.
Yep.
Because they put the money into this guy.
Yep.
They got us the horse. Let's do it.
Let's get it done.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
No, I look for little things like that. I'm not worried about bottom line Bob, whoever they want to call him, who owns the team. I mean, he's used to making money. He owns 7 Springs. He got rid of everybody, and he makes his millions there. But, he's just a businessman. And guess what? He had the money to buy the team.
Yep.
So you got to give him credit. If he wants to make $20 to $40 million, maybe another $40 million he can spend on the team. That's all.
I think that they're really getting to the place where they're saying, hey, our fans just aren't loud enough, so you guys got to get louder. I mean,
well,
just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Put it like this: the last couple of years, they've lost 1 million fans. They're not showing up. So
yeah, I just heard not too long ago that they only had 1.4 million fans last year.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean,
they're down over 1 million fans.
That's not good. So you guys got to start going to some more games, okay?
You heard it from Sid, or he's coming back.
Oh.
He'll tell more stories. Let's see. What else do we got here? You got a question? Well, here, come here with the mic. This is a friend of mine. This guy's a great visual artist. He just did a great painting of me.
I said, I just wanted to know, who were you in awe of during your career? Like older players, or who were just really, made you feel like a little kid?
We talked, I mean, again, as a kid, I mean, we talked about this earlier. I mean, as a kid, my hero was definitely my dad. I mean, he was a St. Louis Cardinal fan, and my oldest brother is named after Stan Musial.
Really?
But my dad, I just absolutely loved watching my dad and my uncle play sandlot baseball. And, watching my dad on the mound, my uncle played center field. But, later on, I mean, again, as I was playing, and we talked about him, I mean, Barry Bonds, I mean, was truly one of those individuals that God had just given him an extra measure of talent.
Were you amazed at watching him play, just how he played?
Oh, I mean, he was just such a unbelievable, hitter. I mean, just player.
His hand-eye coordination.
Now
just
I'm
his
talking
skills.
about his hitting. I mean,
Okay.
I will give a lot of credit. I mean, Bill Verdon made him into the outfielder that Barry Bonds was.
Yeah.
I mean, Bill Verdon worked his tail off. I mean, Barry's tail off in
Really?
spring training to make him into the outfielder that he was, because he was a questionable outfielder when he first came in.
Okay.
And Bill did a great job of working with his getting rid of the ball. To get rid of the ball to throw home, and
Sure.
getting his jumps to the different
Fielding the ball.
Yeah,
Getting-
I mean, all that stuff.
getting
So
that
Bill
first step.
Bill Verdon did a lot of stuff in order to make him into a great outfielder.
He was a great player himself.
But Barry, as far as hitting was concerned, I mean, he was just one of those that you could just sit back and just only wish that you had that much ability.
Yeah. He had some skills, that's for sure.
Sure, for sure.
No doubt. Anybody else have a question? Brad, you had a question or something. Here, come on up to the mic.
I know what you feel like getting out of that chair. I just
know.
want you to know
I'm
that.
getting old here. Here's my question for you. I listened to you. I lived in Los Angeles for 15 years,
Okay.
so I know what it's like to be in a crazy world. The world of 1991, and when I remember I was sitting on my bed, a waterbed at the time, with the green weenie shaking it, and watching Gene Lamont's face and Dr. Gradisek right here. I don't know. Oh, I just wanted. I don't know what I did actually. I was looking at my TV and I remember being on a waterbed. So I'm 43 now and he's a diehard Pirate fan and we're from Center Township originally. So, I moved out to Los Angeles and things have changed since back then in the way people operate. And coming from a small town in Pittsburgh, I have parents that were school teachers and don't really push, don't give you the green light to do things. I wanted to be a sportscaster. I worked for the Pittsburgh Penguins as an intern and worked at Channel 4 as an intern as well. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry I'm repeating these things, but it's the effort that I want to ask you about and the encouragement. In today's world, it's easy to say, I don't know. It's easy to get your way out of it by using that phrase. I joke with my nieces and nephews, they can always get out of it by saying in 3, 2, 1, I don't know. So it takes effort to get places. And I'd like to know what your family, what encouragement gave you the courage to push forward and become the baseball player? Because you were mentioning that you were, that you see players plateau. Mm-hmm. And I would just challenge that to ask, what was the difference that took you over the edge?
Appreciate that. Thank you. I will just say this, and I'm not trying to brag or anything like that, but I didn't have a plateau in the minor leagues. I didn't have a plateau until I got to the major leagues, in all truthfulness. I hit over 400, like I said, in college. I hit over 300 every year in minor league baseball. And, my biggest hurdle was, truthfully, in the minor leagues was, and you can ask her, I was ready to quit in 1985 because I got tired of being an up and down yo-yo. They'd bring me up when somebody went on a DL in LA and send me back down as soon as they got healthy. And I thought that I was ready to play up in the big leagues, and all they were using me for was an insurance policy. And I got so sick and tired of that in 1985, I finally came back after I started the year up there, and I was leading the team in home runs and RBIs at the time. I started the year, and they sent me back as soon as Greg Brock got healthy, and I just said, I'm done. I'm literally done. I can't do this anymore. And there again, I had a strong lady in my life that she said, just go this year yet. Just push through this year. And the one neat thing for us was, and we had been trying for a child for quite some time. And one day, as I was walking out of the locker room to go down to Albuquerque into the dugout, she handed me a little package, and it was a baby gift, and she let me know that we were having our first child. And in all truthfulness, at that point in time, I knew things were going to be okay. Because God was, at that point in time, I knew that He was going to start orchestrating things, and that's the year that I got traded over to Pittsburgh. But for those, I'll just say this: Pete Rose, just thinking of the greatest hitter that ever played the game of baseball. Pete Rose was one of those individuals that everywhere he went, people told him, "You're not going to go any further, son. You're just stop, be a coach, do whatever. You're not going to go any further." But Pete Rose didn't listen to him. And and today Pete Rose is the all-time major league hit leader. And sometimes you have to have that type of an attitude in order to get yourself where you need to be. Sometimes it's never going to happen. But at the same time, you can't let, and as I told you, sometimes I listened to too much talk show hosts telling me that I wasn't any good. And at that point in time, it played on my mind. And so there's going to be a lot of evil things talking to your head. You can't do it. People are going to tell you you can't do it, but you know, you got to get to that place of saying, man, I can't do it before you give up on your dream. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I mean, you can't listen to other people. You just got to go out and you know, go until you just finally get to the place of saying, it's not going to happen for me. And until that time comes, if you believe in yourself and you think it can happen, you just keep working. And I mean that with all my heart.
Hey, that's a great statement. You had a strong wife there, and
I mean,
things
behind
worked out.
behind every great man is a great woman, and I certainly have a great woman.
There you go. No, glad to hear that.
Yes, sir.
Come on. I'll let you have the mic.
Are you a Marine, sir? Is that a Marine shirt?
Navy.
Navy? Thank
Yeah,
you
I
so
was
much
in
for
the
your
Navy.
service.
Well, I didn't see a whole lot of you playing because I was out at sea most of the time during your career,
Yeah.
but that's okay.
Well, you were doing the honorable thing. Thank you.
And I grew up in Ohio. I was a big Reds fan. I couldn't stand the Pirates until I moved here about 18 years ago. But I gotta say, I do appreciate your, you know, your signatures and the fact that you put Bible verses on them. Because every time you look at them, I'm gonna take it home tonight. My wife and I are gonna look up that Bible verse.
Amen.
And every time someone looks at that, they're gonna look at that Bible verse
Yep.
as well, and they're gonna say, "What does that say?" So
Yep.
you're gonna have to talk about it. But my question is a little bit more basic. What pitchers in the major league caused you the most problems, or were you most worried about when you had to face them?
Yep. Good question. I will say this: early in my career, I could care less how hard you threw. I mean, I was gonna hit you. Matter of fact, my second hit came off of Nolan Ryan, and the first time up, I mean, I based Mike Marshall on second base, and I hit a line drive to left field. And I came back to the dugout, just kidding, but I came back to the dugout and said, "Nolan, who?" I mean, but I hit speed. I mean, Dwight Gooden and I got along really well. Early on in my career, literally, my thing was on junk ballers. I mean, guys that, you know, would never give me anything out over the middle of the plate. Were always turning the ball
Would you
over,
like the
curveballs.
fastball better?
I love I mean, and most guys do.
Right.
But it wasn't until I got up in, you know, 1990, 1991 that I started to get smart as far as hitting is concerned, and tell myself, these guys aren't going to give me that pitch, you know, on either half of the plate. They're going to stay away from me, and then the only time that they're going to throw the ball here is once they get ahead. So.
Sure. You got to be smart then.
And then I got to be smart. And so instead of trying to pull the ball, now all of a sudden I started to take that pitch to left center
Just
field.
drive it.
And you know, I really had a lot of success with those kind of pitchers later on. But
I remember seeing you hit plenty of left center doubles
yep,
and things
I mean,
like that.
you know,
Definitely.
and that was the time frame that I knew that, I mean, they weren't going to give me anything to hit. So I mean, I was going to take what they were going to give me. Good. I mean, case in point, Roger McDowell. He was a great reliever for the Philadelphia Phillies in 1990. And we had a game there in Philadelphia that had guys on second and third, first, second, third, bases loaded, whatever, but I was up at the plate. I mean, and normally I would have gone up there thinking, pull the ball, you know, try to drive the ball to right field.
Hit
And
as hard as I can.
And that day I just said, hey, he's not going to throw me inside. And so, I mean, I really got to the place where I just said, I'm going out after the ball and I'm going to hit the ball to left field. He threw it out there. I mean, the ball was way off the plate, and I was able to just hit a line drive to left field, scored a couple runs, and I said, shoot, this works. I mean, this works. But again, baseball is a game of adjusting.
Sure.
And just like I adjusted to Roger McDowell that time,
Right.
the next time I faced him when he was
He
in
adjusted.
LA, you know, I was saying, okay, he's going to go back out there because that's his favorite pitch.
Sure.
Well, now all of a sudden he started to come in on me. And so he made the adjustment at that
Sure.
at bat, and I didn't make the adjustment. And so I got it out that time. But baseball is just, it's a constant game of adjustments.
Look what we've seen with Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
When he was knocking the cover off the ball, all of a sudden he couldn't hit. And I go, pitchers look for a weak spot. Look at Josh Bell.
Yep.
26 homers as a rookie, 12 his sophomore year. That was no jinx. That was better pitching.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what people, everybody sees their first year, and it takes, and just like a pitcher might go through lineups,
Once
that
that
first half of
second,
the year,
third
second,
time, yeah.
third time when they start to understand what he's trying to do, or that second or third time of seeing him in a game.
Sure.
I mean, they make their adjustments, and the pitcher has to make an adjustment right back, and
Well, look at baseball, the beauty of it. Everybody's watching the pitcher, the hitter.
absolutely.
So
I mean, and you see what's going on in the game of baseball. I mean, they know exactly where everybody hits the ball. I mean, 90% of the time, 95% of the time, they know where you hit the ball on the ground. They know where you hit the ball in the air, and so you see all these major shifts now. I mean, because they know that 2% of the time they're going to hit the ball on the left side of the
the
infield.
shift's getting ridiculous. You got the 3 infielders on the right side, and
But are you? I mean, isn't it smart?
yeah.
It's smart. I mean, it takes away hits.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's why won't you do that? I
Right.
mean, it's the smart way to play the game of baseball. I mean,
Sure.
and you're going to make him do something. And this is the thing that bothers me. I mean, when they do those shifts,
Yeah.
I can't believe that hitters, even, I mean, just they don't lay the bunt down. They don't just push the ball and
Well,
get on the base with
To
the
me, you've
players.
got something that's stubborn, and then it's arrogant with how the batter is. They just think they're going to keep swinging the same way, keep
Well-
trying to pull the ball.
But Al, the game of baseball has changed so much in regards to the home run ball that, I mean,
Key point.
they would rather have you strike out 250 times in a year
Right.
and hit 30 home runs than to worry about hitting a single to left field. But
No, you're exactly right.
you're taking the team out of the picture with all that stuff, and that's what I don't like today. I mean, teamwork is not the team aspect of the game of baseball is not there anymore.
No, you're right. It has lost something there, because you would think they'd at least try.
Absolutely.
Look at all the great hitters over the years. They didn't strike out that many times.
Nope.
You know.
Absolutely
And
not.
then I have an interesting fact about Stan Musial. He was a switch hitter. He had the same amount of hits, I forget the number, left-handed and right-handed.
Wow,
How about that for a fact?
that's pretty good right
It's
there.
a little bit of trivia for you. You can use that. I don't know the number, but he had over 3,000 hits, but it was exact right-handed and left-handed.
Is
So,
that right?
yeah. So
Very
what a
good.
great player
Anybody
he
else know
was.
that?
There's an interesting one. Anybody else have a question or anything? Come on, get the mic.
One of the things I wanted to ask that kind of hit home for me, because I'm a behavioral health nurse, so I do a lot with drug and alcohol, and you talked about and there's an opioid crisis in this country, and it's been going on for a long time, but now with social media and things like that, it's really prevalent. And one of the things that hit home to me was you said when you were in 11th grade, you got injured, you had problems with your knee, and obviously it's something that you had throughout your entire career that you had to deal with. So, and even today there's a lot of players that, they're given narcotics at a young age to handle a lot of the sports injuries that they incur and stuff. So how did you get through all that without becoming part of that kind of crises?
That's a good point. I don't know. I don't know if did I take opioids with my surgeries, hun? I mean, they never affected me in regards to I had a craving for them. I don't know if they're stronger today than they were back then. I don't really know. I mean, in all truthfulness, I mean, I've had 6 operations on this knee and 1 on this one, so I've been under the knife an awful lot. And I know I had some pain, but I don't remember what they gave me, but I don't remember ever having a feeling of, man, I have to have that stuff again. So I don't know how to answer that, truthfully. But I
Stronger drugs
appreciate
now.
your concern.
That's the problem. They got stronger drugs.
Well, I mean,
I think that's the issue.
it could be. I mean, more pure drugs. I mean, I'm not sure, but I don't remember what happened there. I mean, because I know that they gave me some stuff in order to take away the pain, but it never affected me to the place where I felt as though I needed to have more. So I never got addicted. Let me just put it that way.
Great question, by the way.
Thank you.
And how are you even walking with 7 knee operations? Come on. I need to know more.
You'll see as soon as I stand up. I can't. Yes, sir.
Here's the mic.
First, my simplest question comes from my favorite PR and media relations person in baseball. He told me to ask you, who was your favorite PR guy?
Greg Johnson?
Well, no.
Okay.
How about Jim Trudinich?
Oh, Jimmy T. Oh, Jimmy T. I mean, is a great. I mean, Jimmy is. He's been a great help to me as well. But Jimmy T. and my brother know each other real well because my brother worked with him in the offices down there for quite some time. But over the years, Jimmy T. has just. I mean, I appreciate him as a friend. He's a great worker in Pittsburgh, and glad to see he's still there.
Yeah, his older brother was my roommate at Pitt.
Is that
so
right?
I've known Jimmy T since he was real little. But
Very nice.
So 2 other questions. Those of us that played sports never to reach the level you did. We went through and had coaches, and then there's good coaches. So in your world, what were the, and then I agree with you about the talk show. Okay, like you hear Jack Zarinsik on the pregame. He knows what he's talking about because he was a GM and players that are on. But from the media point of view, everyone critiques managers. From your side, and you played. What were the managers that you knew were good managers who made an impact on you?
Yep.
And you alluded to it a little bit earlier, and however you want to get into it. But for those of you that were 95% of the true baseball players, what was the opinion of your type of player versus the ones that were being juiced?
Well, I couldn't catch. What was that last part of it?
That you played the game as a natural athlete.
Yeah.
You either worked out,
Yep.
vitamins, exercise. But in your era was the problem we had with
Yep.
the Barry Bonds type. What was your sentiment? What was
Okay,
your
very
side
good.
of it?
Coaches first. I will just say that, I mean, professionally, my favorite coach was Jim Leland. I mean, and I'll just share with you that, he had such an impact on us, and not that he was a Christian or anything, but he had, the one thing that I loved about Jim Leland is he told me the truth. And it might not have been what I wanted to hear. And I mean, and I'll just share in regards to one of my experiences was that I had been in a slump, and he had been moving me down in the lineup. I mean, I'd gone down to 6th and 7th, and I think I even got to 8th, but I'd started to hit the ball. And I went into his office one day, and I said, Skip, I said, I don't understand why I'm continuing to move down the lineup. And most coaches would have hemmed and hawed and said, no big deal, or, this is what. Leland looked at me and said, you're lucky you're even here. And so I promptly just got up out of my seat and I said, thank you, Skip, and I'm out of here. But Jim Leland, I mean, Jim was such an amazing coach in regards to, he knew every one of his ball players. He knew what they needed, whether they needed a kick in the butt or they needed a joke told to them to lighten them up and to relax them. But he was always 2 steps, 3 steps ahead of every coach that he ever played against. I mean, he knew what he was going to be doing and what was going to take place well before any other manager in the game of baseball at that point in time. And he defended his players. So Jim Leland, by far, in my opinion, was the best manager that I played for. Bobby Cox was a great manager in regards to letting you play. I mean, Bobby was, as long as you gave it 100% out there, Bobby wasn't going to give you a whole lot of struggle. My struggle with Bobby came right off the get-go in 1991, that I went down there thinking I was going to be playing every day against lefties and righties. And I had a great spring training against lefties as well, and he sat me down the very first game of the 1991 season and said, your job description is going to be that you're going to play against lefties and righties, and every so often I'll give you a tough day off, a day off against a tough lefty. I said, great, that's what I'm here for. And never played against a lefty. And so right off the get-go, I mean, I started to understand that I can't take him at his word. But Bobby, he was another one of those that he would stand behind you. He would make sure that he would defend you to any call that the umpire made, and so on and so forth. Tommy Lasorda, I'd throw him out with the wash tank. I mean, obviously you see Tommy, great manager, but he was just one of those that on camera, greatest guy in the world. Behind the scenes, boy, he would just rip the daylights out of you. And didn't appreciate that a whole lot as far as a ball player is concerned. But Jim, I mean, our third son, we thought so much of Jim Leland that his middle name's Leland, so Austin Leland. So we named him after Jim Leland a little bit. But as far as your point concerning steroids and those individuals that did it, this is my feelings. I mean, again, as I told you, I've had 6 knee operations on this knee, 1 on this one, and I've worked my tail off. In 1989, when I tore the ACL on this one and didn't know if I was ever going to come back in 1990 season, and I worked my tail off. I mean, I worked profusely, whatever that word is, to get my body to get to the place where this leg was going to be able to allow me to play again, and never took steroids to get healthy or anything like that. And to think, for me, to think like a Roger Clemens that shot himself up, that was able to work out a little bit harder, was able to recover quicker, that might have put 1 or 2 miles per hour on his fastball because of that stuff, and thinking that I worked my tail off, and because of his 1 or 2 miles per hour, he got the ball by me at some point in time. To me, it wasn't fair. And and again, I know that life isn't fair, but for me, like I shared an example with Brady Anderson. When he was on juice, he hit 42 home runs. When he went off of juice and he got caught, he hit 12 home runs. Who knows with McGuire, Sosa, Bonds, those guys that were in the 70 home run mark, if they weren't on that stuff, what would they have hit? Would it have been 30 home runs? Would it have been 25 home runs? Would it have been 40 home runs? Would it have been 80 home? I don't know. I don't think that it would have been, knowing experience-wise what it would have been, but I have to believe that, their home run totals would not have been anywhere close to 70, which would have made them, as I was talking to this young man up here, it would have made them, how many more seasons would they have had to play in order to break Hank Aaron's record? And then they could have got hurt, and would they have been able to sustain all that? So that's my view of the steroid era. And to me, one of the things, the only way it's going to stop, in my opinion, somebody's always going to try to get over it. The only way it's going to stop is that those individuals' contracts are null and void at that point in time. They don't get a chance for 80 days and come back and pick up their contract where it left off. Their contract is null and void, and they have to renegotiate another contract. And when you do that, you'll get to the place where they're not going to do it because they're going to lose too much. So that's the only chance that you'll ever see that somebody's not going to try to tempt and try to get around that steroid era.
Oh, here.
They're not paid during that time, but at the same time, like Milky Cabrera, Sterling Barte, whoever has done it, as soon as they come back, their contract's reinstated.
Reinstated, yeah.
And they're getting that same amount of money.
No, that's a great point. I don't think it's going to happen.
No.
We
not
won't
with the
see it in our lifetime.
Not with the Players Association.
Any other questions?
So, could you talk a little bit about the 1988 season where we had record high attendance, and that was a really exciting time? Like, you came from the Dodgers to the Pirates with R.J. Reynolds, or I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, it was R.J. Reynolds. And then also, as a former youth coach, working a lot with the Positive Coaching Alliance, we talk a lot about learning life lessons through sports. What are some of the life lessons that you've learned through sports?
Okay, I'll have to start thinking about that one a little bit.
Give him 30 seconds.
But as far as the first one is concerned, I mean, you know, again, I've already shared 1986. I came over in 1985 of August of 1985, right at the end of August, and that was, you know, with Chuck Tanner. That last month was with Chuck Tanner, and you know, they had lost I don't know how many ball games that year, but in 1986, you know, they had committed to a youth movement. And, you know, I was one of the first players along with RJ and Cecil Westby that Bill Madlock was traded for. And so 1986, we had a crummy year that year as well. But at that point in time, then they started bringing in Barry Bonds and they started bringing in Bobby Bonilla and they started bringing Doug Drabeck and Neil Heaton and Brian Fisher and, you know, a lot of Jay Bell and a lot of great, you know, they've Sid Thrift did a great job of filling holes, and we started to play. And 1987, we got a little bit better. In 1988, we literally thought we had a chance to win that year. And I share with individuals the time frame that we lost, and this was on Jim Gott. I mean, Jim Gott was the reason that we lost. Not lost that year, but I mean at the same time, Jim, we had a situation. We were playing New York Mets. We were up 1-0 in the ninth inning with 2 outs. Howard Johnson was at the plate. We had an infield meeting. Jim Leland was on the mound with Jim Gott, and Jim Leland said, "Do not throw Howard Johnson a fastball." Jim Gott, not going to throw him a fastball. Did you hear me? We're not going to throw him a fastball. No fastball. One more time. We're not going to throw Howard Johnson a fastball.
Wow.
This is the truth. 3 times Jim Leland said, "You are not going to throw Howard Johnson a fastball."
He threw it.
No fastball. We all split up, went back to the bench, or back to our positions. Jim went to the bench. Spanky, slider. No, he shook it off. Slider. He shook it off. Slider. He shook it off. Fastball. Threw a fastball. Howard Johnson hit a home run. We lost the ball game.
Wow.
I mean, and literally from that point, we just curtailed. So I'm not saying it was Jim Gott's fault, but I mean, that was just the time frame that we just started to go down. But so we really thought we had a chance to win that year. 1989, we were really hopeful. I mean, and that's the year right off the get-go. I got hurt. Mike LaValle got hurt. We had a lot of injuries right off the get-go, and so you know, our year just kind of got wasted at that point in time. And then 1990, you know, we came back, and you know, it was a phenomenal year. 1990 was a great year, a fun year. We had a lot of great players.
Sure.
But so that's, you know, that was all that. As far as life lessons,
Give him 30 more seconds.
you know, I would say that I need to have my wife up here. She could, no.
Michelle, come on up.
You know, again, the biggest life lesson is always, I mean, and we've talked about it up here before. I mean, when you get knocked down, you got to get back up. I mean, that's probably one of the greatest ones that you ever, you know, it's something that everybody has to have that mentality. I mean, when you get knocked down, you got to get back up, because I mean, we're all going to get knocked down. We're all going to go through struggles. The Bible says in this life you're going to have struggles, but take heart, I've overcome the world. I mean, we're all going to have struggles, but what are you going to do with those struggles? Are you going to sit at home and mope and cry and complain about it, or are you going to get back up and you're going to say, Lord, we're going to keep moving forward? And so that's the greatest one, you know, the best one that you could ever have. I'm sure that there's some other ones in there, integrity, character, you know, and, you know, again, but.
You want to follow up? Are you good?
Thank you.
What picture, if any, had your number, despite how you adjusted, you still?
A lot of them. I've often said, I mean, like I said, I mean, I was terrible on, I mean, I'd go to games where I had the junk ballers thinking, man, I'm going to get several hits tonight. And I'd come out 0 for 4, 0 for 5 and sit there and think, how in the heck did I go 0 for 4, 0 for 5 off of this guy? He couldn't throw his way out of a wet paper bag. But, you know, the one person that I always share that always gave me the fits, I mean, and was Dave DeVecchi. I mean, Dave DeVecchi, he only threw me 2 pitches all the time. He threw me a cutter, and he threw me a straight fastball underneath my elbows.
Wow.
And it was just always one of those that when I felt as though he was throwing inside, he threw the cutter. And when I was thinking he was going to throw the cutter, he threw the one at under my.
He was in your head.
He was in my head. I mean, and you know, he just always had my number. And again, I know that there were some pitchers that I could go up to the plate blindfolded and know I was going to get a hit. I mean, Kevin Gross from Philadelphia. I mean, he was one of those guys that, I mean, I knew I was going to get a hit off of him, you know, in the game no matter what. Martinez from Montreal. I mean, Dwight Gooden. I mean, I knew I was going to hit those. I mean, I knew I was going to hit those guys. I mean, and so I always had a positive outlook, but there was a lot of people that had my number. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So I work for a local university, and we had a group on campus that came. It's a local Pittsburgh startup called Diamond Kinetics, and they essentially make sensors and an app.
Just understand, I'm a dumb jock.
Yeah,
Don't start talking over my head here.
Yeah, no, I won't. But essentially, you know, they have these sensor things that you attach to a bat. They have balls that have sensors inside them, and they have a matching app that they sell for like $20 in a subscription service, and collects a lot of data, aggregates the data within other users, and they're contracted with about half of the major league teams, about 70 college teams, they said, and they sell it to consumers as well. So little leaguers are using it. Yep. And so you were talking a little bit earlier about how the game has changed, because obviously you have statisticians now looking at where balls are landing and where people are hitting. And so these apps are essentially showing, you know, they'll follow the movement of the bat swing and show you where the sweet spot is, and when you pitch a ball. Do you think these types of innovations, we're in modern times, I get that, but do you think that's good for sports, or especially like baseball and softball, where, you know, are all these innovations good for moving the sports forward, or are we kind of taking away the heart of the game?
Good question. Great question. First of all, I really and truly believe that you know, one of the things when I was coming up through, lifting weights was a taboo. I mean, you know, especially a pitcher. A pitcher wasn't allowed to lift a weight. I mean, and so when I was coming up through, weightlifting just finally started to get into the game a little bit. Today, I mean, as you said, you know, everybody has their own strength coach, and that's why you're seeing these little guys, I mean, 5'10" guys, 5'8" guys hitting opposite field home runs, because they are working every aspect. I mean, every muscle that is so relevant to the baseball swing, that they're able to, you know, put so much more energy into that swing. And so for that part of it, it's very, very good. And I, you know, these up in Grove City, they actually had one of those bats that I went up and tested for them, and you know, to see what my swing speed was and see my path of my bat, and I think a lot of that, going back to what we were talking about earlier with Al, you know, when we get to as a hitter, the more efficient you are as a hitter, the more that you know that the swing speed has to happen there as opposed to back here, the better off you're going to be as a ball player. And if, as a young person, if I can get that through their head, that, I mean, the swing doesn't start back here, the swing is all about right there, that's where the impact has to take place, where the speed of the bat has to go, that's going to make him so much more efficient later on down the road. I mean, but as I coach kids and as I instruct kids, one of the toughest things is for them to understand, you know, the swing, and most of them start from back here to get their swing started. But if you can get things to get them to start thinking about their path of the ball and where that head is supposed to come through, you know, that stuff's always good. Now, if you're starting to talk about you know, taking away the umpires, you know, putting up the box, I mean, that's a part of the game.
I'm traditional, no way.
Some people want that. I mean, you know, the bad part about it is when you have that box there and you see how many pitches the umpire misses, it makes you, you know, it really hurts. I mean, you just say, man, get him out of there. You know, let's get that box. But then again, now I go back to Tommy Glavine, Greg Maddux, that weren't hard throwers. And I mean, and they used to sit there, and I mean, the catcher would just keep moving out, and they would get literally 5, 6, 10 inches off the plate at times because that catcher would put his glove out 10 inches and they'd get that call.
Sure.
Today, that wouldn't happen. And I really and truly believe that Tommy Glavine and Greg Maddux wouldn't be the pitchers they were today.
You may be right with what
because of where they were, you know, back then, because of the umpires today are so scrutinized on that strike zone.
Sure.
And back then, there was nothing like that. So technology is good. Can it get overboard? Just like in everything, I think it can. But it also, for young people, it can get to the place where they can get consistent with a good swing, understanding where everything has to be. And, you know, sorry, but you think of John Kruk, you think of Greg Counsell, that, you know, he used to hold his bat way up here, and all the things that needed to go right in order for him to get his hands and get that bat through the zone. I mean, a lot of things had to take place as opposed to sitting here, no step, Paul Molitor type of a thing, no step, your head stays still, and you're seeing the ball right out of the pitcher's hand and making, I mean, it's so efficient.
Consistency, like you're saying.
Consistency, efficient, and it makes you a much better hitter in the long run. Those guys were able to do it, but I mean, they were just extraordinary athletes.
The potential's there. The technology's much more advanced. And if the parents are spending it on young kids and stuff, they don't really even understand that concept.
No.
At this point, they may not get it till a teenager. They may not get it till it's too late. They're not getting a scholarship. But people are promoting that. That's the problem we have, and it's about the dollars with that. So you do have to watch.
Always, you got to follow the money.
Yeah.
Follow the money. Yes.
Here, grab a mic, Bonnie.
You know I'm a big mom.
I know.
You mentioned that your father and uncle were your heroes. Who were your favorite players growing up as a young boy?
In the major leagues, I mean, again, I watched. I was a St. Louis Cardinal fan because my dad was a St. Louis Cardinal fan, and so I loved to watch Lou Brock. I loved to watch Bob Gibson. I mean, Dick Allen was on the team. Page. I mean, they were both first basemen, and so I loved to watch them a lot. You know, but I was more focused on them. But, you know, again, back then you only watched Saturday afternoon ball game. That was the only time that you got to see a ball game back when I was growing up. We didn't get those games. I mean, again, you only had one game a week. I mean, and whoever was on that game, that is who you played. And so I didn't even have a chance to watch the Cardinals a whole lot until maybe they come into Philadelphia. And, you know, back then, I was only 2 hours away from Philadelphia. I was 3 hours away from Pittsburgh. And I'll just say this. I mean, Pittsburgh wasn't even on the map, you know, for that part of the country. And I'm not saying this braggingly again, but until I started to play, you know, with Pittsburgh.
It's because of you.
Well, I'm just saying that people, it's so much easier to watch when you know somebody that's playing, and they put so much pressure on the television people there to bring Pittsburgh games into Carlisle going when I was playing. Today, Pittsburgh is more loved there than Philadelphia. Even with the records that's going on, Pittsburgh's loved more there, but it wasn't until I played that people put pressure on that area to get the games to there. So I didn't even have a chance to watch the Pittsburgh Pirates a whole lot, truthfully. Yep. I mean, my dad I don't know why my dad grew up liking the Cardinals, but he did. My cousin, the one that played center field, he was a Phillies fan, so we always went at it as far as, you know, Philly and Cardinals games. But why my dad liked the Cardinals, I have no idea.
Wow. Hey, anybody else have any questions? We're about ready to wrap the show up. So if you have a question or two left, There were some great questions so
Yeah,
far.
they've been great questions. Thank you guys
Yeah.
very much.
Anything, one more, Mike.
Oops, maybe two.
We got him too. We got him next.
Do you think Barry Bonds belongs in the Hall of Fame?
Pete, I mean, I'll answer Pete Rose first. Again, for Pete Rose, if he did not bet on his own team, then I say yes, he has, because I mean, he could have affected the outcome of a ball game if he bet on his own team. But if he was just betting in general on other teams in the game of baseball, then I don't see why he should not be instated into the Hall of Fame. But I don't know if he's been proven. I haven't heard any proof that he has bet on his own team. But if he had, then no, I don't think he has the opportunity. As far as Barry Bonds is concerned, I've been, in a sense, very, very happy to see that the writers have not put any of those individuals in that have done what they've done. All of them great talents, but at the same time, and again, back then, it wasn't, as somebody already suggested, it wasn't something that they worried about a whole lot. But to me, I just don't think that they need to be there at this point. And it's sad to say, because like they said, Barry Bonds would have been in there if he didn't take the stuff. He would have been there. It's just too bad.
All right, last question right here.
So you've talked about like the technology aspect of like, like launch angle. You seem to be kind of more receptive to that than I think people would expect like an old school baseball guy to be. I'm wondering your thoughts on analytics, and particularly, are data people in front offices sort of changing the way that managers manage, taking more power away from, like, say, Clint Hurdle, like, you have to start some guy from AAA because guys need to rest because we have some data that says they need to rest. And is that necessarily a bad thing?
I mean, again, another great question. I mean, I would just say this: if I can find reports or analytics that say that this gentleman is going to get on, this many times out of the game, he hits this person this way, and so on and so forth. There's always the variables. I mean, there's always going to be variables. I mean, Randy Johnson, my first time up against Randy Johnson, I hit a double to right field. After that, I don't think I ever got another hit off of it. But at the same time, there's always that variable that, that person that might have been 0 for 10 against somebody is going to come up and get a hit off of that individual. It just, that pitcher might make a bad pitch. I mean, today, in the game of baseball, the pitchers today, to me, are all just pitchers or throwers. They're not pitchers. I shouldn't say that all of them. But you look in the game of baseball today, and you might get your best pitch 0-2. As opposed to back when I played, and I'm not saying it didn't happen some, but back when I played, when you got 0-2, 1-2 on a pitcher, your chance of getting a hit was like 2%. Because they knew how to get you out. And again, maybe that's because of the box. Maybe that's because of the umpires are a little bit more stringent as far as that box is concerned, that they're not giving that slider that was off 5 or 6 inches off the plate. But going back to your point, I think it would be dumb, just like I said about, the shift. I think it would be dumb for people to play straight up when you see every place that guy has ever hit the ball in the air, on the ground, and 92% of the time he's hitting the ball, second base over. Why in the world are you not going to play people there? That would be dumb.
Common sense.
But as I also said, you got to learn to adjust. And so for these hitters, all they have to do is get their hands inside the baseball a little bit and hit a little ball down the left field line, and they're on the base. And that's really the part of the game that I really protest to. The game of baseball today is not a team game anymore. It's all about the person. I share the story of Terry Pendleton, National League MVP, batting champion in 1992. But I can't tell you how many times as a hitter when we had a guy at second base with nobody out, that he would lay the ball down to get him to third base, to trust David Justice coming up, to build that team chemistry, to say, man, I trust you that you're going to get that runner in. Today, you don't have that. I mean, you have select players that will get up there to the plate and try to hit the ball to the right side to get him over to third base. Most of them tell him, go for the base hit. Don't worry about, getting that guy over. The other night, I mean, we had the opportunity to get the guy over to third base, and
Never did.
he had him swung away. I mean, struck out. I think he struck out. But
No,
he bunts the ball down. That puts so much more pressure on the defense to get that guy. I mean, and to me, that's the part of the game that just burns the daylights out of me. I mean, that is teamwork right there. And
Well,
but
that's why you have a team.
that's exactly. I mean, and that to me, that just burns me. I mean, you had a chance there to win that ball game, and you're going to take a chance on a right-handed hitter getting it, trying to hit a ball someplace, as opposed to just having him bunt it down, get him to third base, and there's all kinds of possibilities of him scoring from third base. So, team aspect is big to me.
Great question.
Yes,
great
they are.
answer.
Great questions, you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate all the questions. I want to thank the Oaks Theater for having Al Levine, the talking machine, and Sid Bream here tonight. Thanks to all of you for coming out for
Thanks,
our
guys.
first show.
Thank you all.
We're looking at doing some shows in the future. And Sid, is there any way that they can get a hold of you?
Well, I mean, what they can do is, I have a web page called sidbream.com. It's actually for my speaking, but you can go on there and ask me any question.
I'd rather focus on that because I'm trying to promote Sid Bream.
Thanks,
I
Al.
don't care
Appreciate
about that slide.
They don't either. They wish I didn't do it.
Thank you, everybody.